There's so many things I wouldn't know what to say. Let me make a comment on Ron Paul's interview you just showed everyone. You know, I think the revolution has already occurred. It's the neoconservative revolution, and they have replaced the U.S. Constitution with a police state. And we now have a government that consists of neoconservative warmongers, war criminals, and we live under a police state. So the revolution is already occurred. It's over and done with, and most Americans just slept right through it.
That's right. But the counter-revolution is forming. I mean, explain that. They quietly built this police state, this federalization, this debt to control people, and they've launched it, and they're robbing us and looting us and expanding wars, and they're arrogantly laughing, and they're so greedy, they're taking the death benefits of 6 million veterans, according to Bloomberg, just stealing their money in a secret deal with the Pentagon, with the Veterans Affairs. They are just doing things that are insanely arrogant. I mean, this is hubris that I don't think we've ever seen. Just the level of larceny. Why do they think they're so invincible? I mean, let's talk about how they had this coup, and if we can wake up to the coup, perhaps we can defeat it.
Well, they're obviously very confident that they can get away with it. You know, they're not only stealing the death benefits of veterans, but they're stealing the cost of living adjustments to Social Security retirees.
The COLA.
This is the second year in a row that there's no cost of living adjustment for retirees. Now, anyone who visits the grocery store on a regular basis knows that there's substantial inflation, and yet the government has declared that there isn't any, and so for the second year in a row, there's no Social Security adjustments. Just the other day, William Cohen, who was once Secretary of Defense, he published an article in the Wall Street Journal that said that repeated the error that Matthew Slaughter, a member of Dubia's Council of Economic Advisors, who had claimed that for every job that American multinationals offshore, they create 2 jobs in the United States. Now, this is absurd. There's no sign of these jobs.
Hey, wait a minute, Dr. Roberts. We had a recovery a year and a half ago in June, and the moon is made of cheese, and the Easter Bunny's real, and Santa Claus is real. What are you, some kind of conspiracy theorist? Next time you're going to tell me the Flying Dutchman isn't real.
I don't know about the Flying Dutchman, but when you see the Wall Street Journal and a former secretary of the Pentagon repeating a claim that I myself showed was false at the time it was made in my syndicated column, and again in my most recent book, which is How the Economy Was Lost. And they repeat this canard that offshoring jobs is good for the American economy. It creates 2 domestic jobs for every job that they offshore. But there's no sign of these jobs, as I have reported monthly from the Bureau of Labor Statistics non-farm payroll jobs data. There's no sign of these jobs. And how did they get this result? They got this result because they didn't make any adjustments to the data for the fact that a number of multinational corporations borrowed up other corporations that weren't multinational and acquired their domestic labor forces. And also a number of American corporations which had previously not had overseas operations, established overseas operations. And so where this so-called increase in multinational employment came from was merely from the change in the designation of firms, which had not been multinational and became multinational, either from their own activities or by being purchased. Well, if you're so incompetent, you can't adjust the data in these necessary ways, and then you produce these lies and you keep them in front of the public over and over and over. I guess they assume they can get away with anything. No journalist other than myself has pointed out this fact. The Wall Street Journal repeated it on the 12th of this month. So, what can't they get away with? Weapons of mass destruction, Iranian nukes, 9/11, financial fraud. They get away with everything. There's no accountability, and that's why they have this hubris and this overbearing confidence that they can succeed.
And they've trained 3 million police to act in a goonish fashion and slap everybody around. And I mean, I was driving around in a neighborhood 3 weeks ago, Dr. Roberts, and I was coming into work, and I was cleanly dressed and, driving a clean car, conservative vehicle. And I'm driving in a neighborhood. I mean, on small little, 2-lane neighborhood streets. And there's, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 squad cars. They're parked on each side of the street where I barely could get through. I mean, and I'm driving, and there's like 3 inches on each side of the car, and I'm driving, and they're staring at me like, why are you looking at us and driving so slow? And I'm driving through, and then I turned down another little street, and I parked by somebody's house on a little, almost 1 lane, even smaller side street. And I park about 100 yards down, and I walk up, and I politely say to the state police officers who have this weird checkpoint going on, "Hey, officers, how you doing? Good morning, troopers. What's going on?" And they just marched right over to me. And this guy that looked like Yosemite Sam, and Dr. Roberts' Skype cut out for a moment, so I'll just repeat the story. So I'm driving around in a neighborhood. I mean, with trees hanging over the road.
I got the story.
Okay.
So what happened when they walked over to you?
Well, no, I walked up and I said, I'm going to test this, and I'm going to ask, because if it's a checkpoint, and it's illegal, and the state law said that, and they've had court cases over it. They got a tent set up and all this stuff, and they're blocking the road. It's a neighborhood road, and there's squad cars parked, and I can't even drive through barely. So I go, "Hey, troopers, how you doing?" And I put a charming, demeanor on. And this guy, who was probably not even 5 feet tall, and I'm only 5'10". I'm not saying people are short or bad, but I don't have a Napoleonic complex. And he walks over, and it's a state trooper in his cowboy hat, and he says, "Who are you?" And I said, well, I'm just wanting to know what this is. And he said, "Get in." And I'm not going to even, I'm too tired after 24 hours of broadcast to do it, because he bared his teeth and he screamed at me in my face. He said, "You get in your car and you get out of here. It's none of your business." And I was very polite, and I said, "Well, is this a checkpoint?" And he said, "You're parked illegally." That's a real tyrant. And I wasn't parked illegal. It was a neighborhood. I was parked by, somebody's house on a little side street, and there's trees over the road. I mean, it's a little, little lane. And I said, "Well, number one, I'm not parked illegally," but I said, "You go ahead and arrest me and show me I'm your slave." I said, "This country's going to collapse." And they were all just crazed. And I even talked to police officers who were out of uniform. When they ask cops now for directions, they'll say, "Do I look like a stinking phone book to you? Move along." But I'm sorry, I'm digressing with the time we have. It's just, you can see it. Like, I've been in third world countries, and you see corrupt cops slinking around, and, everybody's scared of them. But they don't even act that bad in Guatemala. I mean, this is disgusting.
Well, I have friends who, or acquaintances, I guess I should say, who I hear talking about their gun clubs. Some of them are competitive shooters, and they say that for some time now, when they go to their gun clubs to practice, there are more policemen there than there are club members, and that the police, there'll be 20, 30, 40, as many as 50 officers. And they'll shoot up $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 worth of ammunition with automatic weapons, and it sounds like a war. And they're practicing what they call concentrated fire. where they have, 10, 20, 30, 40 officers unloading 15 to 30 round magazines and weapons as fast as they can on some target. And what is it all about? I mean, some of these police forces are from small mountain towns that have no crime or anything else. So it's an amazing development. I think it all came from the U.S. government militarizing the local police.
And they're geared up looking for a war, and you don't have police acting like military. They're peace officers, because the military kills people and breaks things and attacks an enemy, and they've been trained to be a military, and they're looking for war with the American people. And I've now got newscasts all over the country where they're announcing the Army's here helping to take over the town in case of emergencies for a collapse. Guess what? This wasn't for Al-Qaeda. It was for you. And they can't wait. And, it's not kill a commie for mommy. It's kill a conservative or a libertarian or a landowner for Goldman Sachs.
I think that the American people have lost control of their government at every level. Yes. The people were insouciant, inattentive. They were easily rolled up in the flag and scared with terrorism threats, and they lost it. They lost the country. The country's lost.
But it's admitting that gives us a chance to get it back.
Well, I don't know. I doubt there's any organization that's not infiltrated by the FBI or some other police agent. And I would think the infiltration is so complete that it'd be impossible for anyone to organize any resistance. That's a fact. I mean, it's just a fact. This looks like it's been in the works for some time. If you think about anything, take the Patriot Act. It's an amazingly thick document, and yet it was ready within 48 hours of 9/11.
Well, we know it's all the stuff that failed in the omnibus and the anti-terror acts under the Clintonistas.
Well, the thing had already been written, which means that the government expected 9/11. I mean, how did they have this massive document already written? For what purpose? You had to know. No, it's totally impossible to put a document like that together in 48 hours.
Well, Dr. Roberts, and not let anybody read it before they voted on it, I don't know if you've seen all this. There's a new story up at prisonplanet.com. In fact, put it up. This international study group sued, and finally, after years, forced NIST to release thousands of videos. And it's bombs going off in 7. It's firefighters saying they're going to blow it up, get back. It's firefighters coming out and saying there's bombs going off. And now it's CBS News. Turns out NIST grabbed a clip that nobody noticed and then classified it, as the CIA does news clippings. And it's the media announcing that the World Trade Centers were blown up with bombs on CBS News. I mean, they blew Kennedy's head off right in front of us. They blew those towers up right in front of us. And you're right. This infiltration, this globalist, this whole thing goes way back. But Ron Paul is very optimistic. I am. Many others are. Let me tell you, I'm out there in the grassroots, and I talk to a lot of... here's an example. This is what's heartening. Whereas that state police officer acted like a crazy maniac and told me I'm Sergeant Baker, and he was the commander out there, so his underlings all just kind of just looked embarrassed in the background. It was one guy. Literally, every time I go downtown, which is probably only twice a month, it'll be 8 o'clock at night, been up here working, didn't go home, I tell the guys, let's go eat and, have a couple beers or whatever. And literally, bicycle cops stop and shake my hand, and military people, because there's Fort Hood near here, shake my hand, and just cops, we know, we understand, it's all true, we thought you were crazy, they're all, so... And I'm quite frankly, I speed sometimes. Most of the time, the cops pull me over and they go, "Oh, Alex, I really like what you're doing. You have a good day." So, but
I wouldn't say this on air, because particularly that you have a couple of beers, because the ones that aren't friendly will pull you over and give you a drinking under the influence and take your license and.
Yeah, but I mean, I hardly ever. I mean, I'm talking 2 beers and.